After quite a long break, I'm back with another video where I'm gonna show you my final attempt to finish Everyday Watercolor tutorials from Jenna Rainey's book, Learn to Paint Watercolor in 30 Days. There was a book I got from the library and I really enjoyed it. I got a little bit bored towards the end, and I showed you a first few attempts in my first video from this series. And I've had this book, I think it's Tim Holtz. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep the painting in this, because as you can see, when the book is closed, the pages kind of peek out and I don't want to cut too much into them. But this is where they're gonna live for a while, and I tried at first to write a few notes about each day and what she taught us. And this was the first day, just practicing some marks and letting the watercolor bleed into each other and working with tones. This was actually day 5 or 6, where she talked about choosing a palette and mixing color, and this is my second attempt to figure out how many colors to use, what combination I can get. This was day 2, where I practiced the circles, and I realized I have to work fast because what happened, my paint dried and then I didn't get the nice blend in that she had in her example. This was what I'm talking you about, the day 4. You work with detailed shapes and choosing warm and cool colors and creating a palette. Here I choose too many colors, and you can see that there's just too much going on. This was my second attempt at the circles. I worked faster, I didn't pay so much attention of the perfection of my shape, and I got the nice bleed that you get with watercolor in this interesting cauliflower effect almost. This was a reef, and I realized that painting leaves is very challenging. Mine look very static and not as elegant as hers, but I'll keep practice on that. This was day 3 with the triangles, and she had a warm color palette. More leaves, which I'm not too happy about. Again, I tend to overwork to get the shape right, and I lose that looseness. Here on the peony leaf pattern, I felt like I was getting a little better. This one was another one that I didn't quite understand how she got that nice concept of transparency, and I still have a challenge using the tones of the same color. The sage leaf turned out pretty good. It was a whole chapter where she had different leaves. This was the eucalyptus, which I was kind of upset. I overworked this leaf right there, so I lost some of the transparency. The tree, this was on day 7. Different marks, kind of the dot look. Not my favorite. And this one, again, the petals, there's something about creating a mark where you control the pressure of the bristles, and that's something I'm still trying to figure out. Thyme leaves, again, nothing too challenging. And then the book started becoming more interesting, where she has like more complex shapes like the leaves and this passion fruit, the flowers. So some things you can recognize. And this Monstera, I think it's called Monstera leaf, this was probably one of my favorites. I like playing with the greens, and I was getting patient enough to let the first layer dry and then kind of painting negative around, leaving the white spaces. This was the papaya, I think. It was okay. I feel like either the paper or me, the way I mixed the colors, I lost some of the transparency and the brightness. This is the passion fruit, and here I bought the opera pink from Daniel Smith, so I really went to town with it. I think I use it for most of my painting. Then Jenna has a few examples of plants and cactuses and some landscape. For some of them, she added another layer of detail, but what I've learned from this book is that I like more of a plain look. I tried this botanical rose, and I think it's okay. I'm not much of a detail-oriented painter. I don't have the patience for all that layering, but I like how it turned out. The landscape part, at first I was excited about it, but then I don't know. I liked more striking compositions. I'm not so big into the atmospheric look. What I enjoyed, surprisingly, one of my favorite parts was these chickens, to capture motions and dynamics. She also had an example with an elephant, but I was not too keen on that. But these chickens, I feel like it's probably one of my favorite examples from her book. The toucan bird, again, the drawing of it was quite fun, and the blend of the black, I really enjoy doing that. I don't have a black watercolor tube, so I used shadow violet, some indigo, and moon glow. I think that was pretty fun. This was one of the drawings in her book. She doesn't have a tutorial for it, but I really enjoy the water blooms, so I tried to replicate it best I could, and I'm okay with it. The hummingbird was cool, and the balance between the cool colors and the red flowers, but nothing really spectacular. Another botanical, well, I tried to focus more on the details, but I didn't go too much. And then the last but not least, the desert landscape. She has more landscape tutorials and another botanical with more complex, almost finished paintings. But this is where I stopped, and of course I had to return the book to the library. And that was it for this project. What I'm gonna do a video next, it's about following tutorials from this book I got from Joanne. It's by Anne Mortimer, and she has flowers in watercolor, and I apologize for the glare. And it says ready to paint in 30 minutes. We'll see if that's true or not. See you in my next video.